And now to the other major news out of the nation's capital. Trailblazing Senator Dianne Feinstein died at her home in Washington, D.C. last night.
Hours earlier, Feinstein cast what would be her final vote on the Senate floor. You see her right there in the purple blazer, raising her hand in favor of a short-term spending bill aimed at preventing a government shutdown.
And it's been a lot of years, so I want to thank everybody up here.
She was the U.S. Senate's oldest sitting senator.
Thank you.
Dianne Feinstein was elected to the chamber to represent California back in 1992. But the centrist Democrat was breaking gender barriers long before coming to Capitol Hill. Feinstein became San Francisco's first female mayor after a double assassination at City Hall in 1978. She led the city out of a particularly turbulent time after its mayor, George Moscone, and supervisor, Harvey Milk, the city's first openly gay elected official, were gunned down by a fellow politician.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Feinstein's calm and compassion also helped guide San Francisco's gay community through the AIDS epidemic that ravaged the city in the 1980s. In 1992, Feinstein won her seat in the U.S. Senate along with Barbara Boxer. They were the first women to ever represent California in the upper chamber. It was hailed as the year of the woman after a new wave of women were elected to the Senate and House. Feinstein became a passionate advocate for a wide range of issues, from reproductive rights to gun control.
Thank you. We've seen it in universities, we've seen them in elementary schools, and now we have seen them used against first graders. The time has come, America, to step up and ban these weapons.
One of her greatest legislative achievements came early in her career, an assault weapons ban she championed that then-President Bill Clinton signed into law in 1994. Feinstein also gained a reputation for reaching across the aisle to find compromise with Republicans, sometimes drawing scrutiny from liberals in her own party. She was the first woman to serve as the ranking Democrat on the Senate's powerful Judiciary Committee. She'd oversee a string of Supreme Court confirmation hearings, including one for then-nominee Brett Kavanaugh as he faced sexual assault allegations.
This behavior revealed a hostility and belligerence that is unbecoming of someone seeking to be elevated to the United States Supreme Court.
Feinstein was also the first woman to head the Senate Intelligence Committee. Under her leadership, the panel conducted a 5-year investigation into the CIA's interrogation techniques during the George W. Bush administration.
Even if one were to set aside all of the moral arguments, our review was a meticulous and detailed examination of records. It finds that coercive interrogation techniques did not produce the vital, otherwise unavailable intelligence the CIA has claimed.
In her final years, Feinstein became more visibly frail and confused, triggering calls for her resignation. In February, she announced she would not be seeking a 6th term next year. Today, President Biden, who served with Feinstein in the Senate, reflected on her passing.
She was a historic figure, trailblazer for women, and a great friend. Dianne made her mark on everything from national security to the environment, to gun safety, to protecting civil liberties. The country's going to miss her dearly, and so will Jill and I.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer echoed those sentiments on the Senate floor.
As the nation mourns this tremendous loss, we're comforted in knowing how many mountains Dianne moved, how many lives she impacted, how many glass ceilings she shattered along the way. America is a better place because of Senator Dianne Feinstein.
Keeping with Senate tradition, her desk in the chamber was draped with a black cloth and adorned with a vase of flowers, a tribute to her long legacy of public service and trailblazing career. Dianne Feinstein was 90 years old.
For reflections on Dianne Feinstein's life, we turn to someone who knew her well, former California Congresswoman Jane Harman. She and Feinstein were elected to Congress on the same day back in 1992 and worked together for nearly 2 decades. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff.
First, my condolences on the loss of your friend. You were with Senator Feinstein just last night. There was a private meeting just hours before she passed, and you shared with us this photo of your visit. Tell us about it.
Well, how lucky was I that it occurred to me about a day ago that I missed my friend Diane and I wanted to go by to see her. So I arranged to go yesterday afternoon, less than 24 hours ago, or just about 24 hours ago, to her home. And she and I sat in her study for an hour with her housekeeper coming back and forth and her little beloved dog, Kirby 2, in her lap, talking about the past, but also talking about the future. What people may not understand is that Diane was still in the arena, and she knew how much she could still do for California, especially appropriations for California. And we were talking about votes, and we were talking about her instinct to try to come up with some idea of how to bring the country together, what could be needed more hours before our government might shut down. And I was blown away by how beautiful she looked, and how much, not just in the present, but in the future she was. And when I hugged and kissed her goodbye, and her housekeeper took that amazing photo, I expected to see my friend anytime soon. And I'm just shocked, as I think the whole country is, by her loss last evening.
Her career was one of many firsts. She was, of course, a trailblazer for women in politics, but also in terms of promoting progressive policy. She was behind the first congressional action on global warming. She secured the extension of the Violence Against Women Act until 2027. She also authored the 1994 assault weapons ban. What do you see as the sum total of her impact?
Oh, she was fearless. I don't know anybody more fearless than she was on behalf of things she cared about and thought were the right things to do. You could not budge her, not ever. The assault weapons ban is a great example because there, many members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I think maybe even then Senator Joe Biden, were much more hesitant to push ahead with that than she was. And she got it done with help in the committee. It passed the Senate, or I think it passed the Senate first, but I voted for it as a House member in my first term. Very risky vote for her, but also for me. And to remind, in 1994, the Democrats lost the majority. Newt Gingrich came to power. Diane and I were reelected. In my case, I was reelected by 811 votes out of 225,000 counted votes after a 9-month ordeal where not only was a count demanded, but there was an investigation by the House, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Looking back on that, Diane's leadership got me on the team. I think I would have supported it anyway, but I would never, ever, never have thought about not following Diane's lead. I mean, she was a marvel.
You know, questions about her health and her mental capacity in many ways shadowed what were her final years in office. Why did she ultimately refuse to resign, even amid the growing pressure from Democrats?
Oh, I fully understand that. And that's why, please show again the photograph of her yesterday, standing next to me. She was beautiful. She was frail, but she was still in the fight. Her view was that she was elected by the citizens of California to her 4th term, I believe it was her 4th term, that she was there to be the most effective advocate for appropriations for money for California, which she was, and to fight for other things that were important for the country, which she did. And even yesterday, as I said, she was talking about things she wanted to do in the future. So why should she resign? She could function. Was it perfect? No, I think she would have admitted that. But her cognitive faculties were there and adequate for the fights for the present and the future, and it was her call, not somebody else's call. It really is sad, and as this has been pointed out by Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker Emerita of the House, that these things were said about a woman. They were never said about the men in the Senate, who were much more frail than Diane in their last days.
You know, I was struck by the fact that both President Biden and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, in separate statements, they both said that they cherished their friendship with Senator Feinstein. And we are in this moment where comedy and bipartisanship are in short supply in Congress. What did Senator Feinstein model for other lawmakers?
She modeled the fact that she would work with anyone to accomplish a result that was good for the country. She didn't think she had all the answers and everybody else was dumb. She thought she would bring her best self to the problem, and she had an excellent staff always, which would help provide her with material. She was well informed, and she would listen and she would lead. And she did that with absolutely everybody. And I can't think of anyone in the Senate, I don't know some of the newbies, but anyone who worked with her over years who doesn't have a fond thought for her. And surely she worked with Mitch. Surely she did. Someone else she worked closely with, who is a dear friend of mine now, is Susan Collins of Maine, who was on the floor this morning passionately talking about Diane's leadership qualities.
She was a pioneer and a strong and dignified leader.
Lisa Murkowski was another. Patty Murray, a Democrat, was saying beautiful things about Diane on the Senate floor.
That was Diane. She did her job every day. She cared about her country.
And of course, her dear friend Nancy Pelosi has been all over this. And Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Nancy Corinne Pelosi, was an extraordinary support for Diane in her last days. So I don't know anyone who didn't value and learn from associating with Diane. I surely did.
You mentioned Senator Collins, and we can, of course, show the picture where Senator Collins brought the watercolor that Senator Feinstein had painted for her. She brought that to the floor of the Senate today as she spoke so beautifully about her friend. Former California Congresswoman Jane Harman, thank you so much for your time, and again, our condolences on the loss of your friend.
Thank you.